To start, sorry, I literally just got off of a plane. So I was like, it's just
That,
gonna be the airport behind me.
that's all good. Where'd you
But
fly to? Where are you?
I'm in LA right now. I flew from New York to LA this morning.
Okay.
So I was on that long cross
Oh
country
yeah.
flight. But to start, I was reading about your own off the grid house and like your experience with that home, and it is kind of not funny, but it is so jarring the difference between this movie and the off the grid nature of it versus how you talk about your own home and how it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh no, it's about connection. And when
Yeah.
you were making something like this, is it fun to have your own experience with living off grid and being unplugged? And then
Yeah.
turn it into something like this and that action packed like the theme of the movie as a whole.
Yeah, I think that that was one of the things that really drew me to this in the beginning because I do have a real fascination with, you know, living off the land. How could I do it if the zombie apocalypse comes, and what would I be able to survive? And I think that that's been one of my driving, motivators in building this place out here is I just want to be able to, get back to the basics, really. And when we first started this place, it was really just picks and shovels and outhouses and washing dishes in the lake. A lot of mud, a lot of dirt, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it. So I got what he had to go through in some
Mm-hmm.
way, this character when he left the real world and went off the grid. And so I really connected to that. I loved his innovation with some of his gadgets that he creates. And then the stakes of the movie are I thought were really a great sort of driving sort of force behind the whole thing. Like he had to leave the real world in order to protect this thing and keep it out of the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so his was more of a necessity than mine was, but I think that the commonality is that we both find peace in it. I find a lot of uh, resolve and pride and just peace in being out here and finding and just getting back to the basics and kind of unplugging from the world and making it about family and uh, making memories, and hopefully someday my kids will pass this on to their
Mm-hmm.
kids. So that's really what my reasoning is, but and also to prevent the zombies from coming.
Famous, they're like, I'm not going out there. I'm good out there. Well, and I wanted to ask too, the I don't know what your relationship is to like shows like Parks and Recreation, but every time I see something where someone's like off the grid or they're like, I don't know where I live, like I no one needs to know where I am. I instantly think of Ron Swanson because I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, he'd be great in any kind of situation like this because he's already living that life. He's like, nah, I'm not doing it.
yeah,
Is it fun to get to add to that the lexicon of characters that we have that we're like, yeah, in an apocalypse situation, I would probably want this guy to be
yeah,
someone I can go to and be like, hey, I need your help with this.
yeah, yeah. I'm hoping to be that guy for whoever needs me. I'm learning as I go. Believe me, I make more mistakes out here than I do things correctly. Believe me. Uh, and you're constantly fixing something. You're constantly, breaking something and having to figure out another way. It's just it's good for it's really good for me because it's almost like I live a dual life. When I'm in
Yeah.
Los Angeles, it's all about work and living that LA life. But when I'm back out here, it's like a different person takes over. And I'm on my tractor, or I'm changing a tire that's been flattened by a nail, or there's just always something that I'm having
Mm-hmm.
to fix. And I find a lot of purpose in that, weirdly. I just love it. I'm not, none of it really matters, but it does because I'm able to keep this place sort of going. They need me, the family needs me to make sure that we all have what we need to keep going because we're 40 miles from anything.
Yeah.
And so we had a storm come through here a couple nights ago that was really nasty, like 80, 90 mile an hour winds that blew down trees everywhere. And the road, there's like a 2 mile road to get out here through the
Mm-hmm.
woods. And there must have been 30 trees that fell on the road, and we had to go out there with chainsaws. And I got my skid steer and I pushed them out of the way. And if I didn't have that, we would have been stuck here for 2 weeks trying to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I've got the stuff to sort of make it work. I'm not very good at it, but I'm getting better.
Well, that leads into the next question I wanted to ask you because one of the things I think is fascinating about this movie is you're doing action sequences, but it's not like pretty action. Like he is rolling around in the woods and the dirt, and you can
Mm,
see like the leaves and the trees, and like none
yeah.
of that is comfortable or fun. But since you do have to kind of do these things outside all the time, and I know you grew up outside, how was it doing these action sequences and experiencing, the movie magic, but like throwing this guy in the dirt like that when you're
Yeah.
trying to make sure you're safe doing action and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing we really wanted the audience to feel from this is they're gonna feel the grit of it, and the loneliness and the constant sort of, back of your mind knowing they're looking for you. The idea that he has to make this stuff and he's living in this situation that isn't comfortable, but he's found a lot of comfort in it, because there is a lot of peace to be found. But also, it's dirty and it's bloody and we wanted people to feel that because
Mhm.
it's part of this movie. He's living off the grid.
Yeah, and you do make me root against somebody that I love very dearly, and that's Greg
I do
Kinnear.
too.
I don't love rooting against Greg Kinnear, but how is it like, in movies getting to it's almost like make him play against type and make people be like, man, I want Josh Duhamel to win this, but that's also meaning that Greg has to fail
But I really
if
love
that
Greg
happens.
Kinnear too. He is a very lovable guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Super talented, great writer. He really worked on making his character like the writer. He wrote a lot of that stuff to make it feel like it was something that he would say. Uh, and he also totally embraced the idea that he was complete fish out of water. Like, here's me, a guy who's like become part of nature out here, living this way, and he's like thrown into it with his pleated khaki pants and his polo shirt,
Polo.
and he's constantly getting bit by mosquitoes, and you could feel how uncomfortable he was. So it was like these two opposing forces, but he had the weight of the government behind him. And so it was fun. And I love that he didn't shy away from that. He didn't try to make himself look all badass. He like really embraced this idea that he doesn't belong here.
Yeah. And with movies like this, I think it's fun because it's like I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and we used to have movies that were like fun, weird action movies all the time. And
Uh,
then they went away when
yeah.
it was either the big franchises or it's like you have to be a bunch of different things all at the same time. For you, what is exciting about releasing a movie like this where it feels like those old action movies that we used to all love in the 80s and the 90s and getting to kind of go back to your roots, as it were, in the genre like that?
Yeah. Johnny talked a lot about making this feel like a bit of a throwback. He wanted to shoot it in a way that was classically composed, sort of not a lot, like a lot of the times that just sort of the camera just sort of sits there and
Mm.
everything just sort of plays out like you're almost inside of it. Um, and yes, I think that was one of the things we really tried to do was make it feel as real and gritty and authentic as we could, but also shoot it in a way that felt like a bit of a throwback.
I loved it. And for my
Yeah, what
last
was the
question,
movie what's the movie that Burt Reynolds did? Uh he was out in the bayou, out in the woods. Oh, God, I love the movie too. I can't remember.
oh, I cannot remember. Burt Reynolds is
Uh,
like all I instantly just think of the photo shoot where he's naked. Anytime his name pops up, I blank, and that's all I think about.
I can't believe I can't remember the name. It's one of my favorite movies, and I just can't put my finger on it. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. What was the last question?
No, I was just gonna say for my last thing, like what for you is now the most exciting part about like when you release movies and someone else gets to watch it and engage with it and have their own take on the movie that you just did and promoted and talked about for so long.
I mean, it's always exciting to, unleash something that you've been working on. It took us years to get this thing off the ground. Movies are not easy to make. They're not easy to put together, and they're definitely not easy to make. And then when you finally get to show them, and if it's something you're proud of, it's exciting. And I think that this is one of those movies that I think it'll make people think about things, whether it's could I live off the grid like that? What is cold fusion technology, and is that a thing? It is. Um, and what happens when you take something that and just do a couple little tweaks to it, goes from something that's great for humanity into something that could end humanity. It's all these things I just feel like it's one of those movies that people will really go along for the ride, and they'll feel it. They'll feel the dirt and the blood and the leaves and the trees. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for everyone else to get to see it. I long for the day when you and Timothy Olyphant finally play brothers. I've been waiting decades at this point. I'm just gonna keep waiting for it.
I
But
pitched
thank
him
you.
one. I pitched him one, but he passed. We are looking for something because that would be fun.
That's all I want. But thank you for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Bye,
It was great
Rachel.
talking to you. Bye.